The following interview was conducted as part of the Price of Freedom project by the Madison County Military Heritage Commission to inform and enlighten young people and the community as a whole about the sacrifices made by those in the military on battlefields around the world. We wish to thank the Huntsville School System and the ETV Broadcast Center for their help in presenting this military heritage program. Hello everyone, I'm Tom Kennemer. Welcome to our program. Today, we'll be talking with U.S. Army combat veteran Lou Pamplin. Lou is the recipient of the Bronze Star Medal with Valor for heroism while serving as an infantryman in the late 60s and early 70s in the Republic of Vietnam. He is also the recipient of the Purple Heart Medal after being wounded during battle. Lou, thank you very much for taking time to be with us. Let me clear my throat here. Appreciate you coming up and taking time to be with us. Thank you so much.
Good
Appreciate
to be here.
that. First of all, tell us a little about yourself. Now, you're originally from this area, right? And grew up here?
I was born and raised in Huntsville. Moved briefly to Chattanooga, and then we moved back here.
Yeah.
Attended high school, Butler High. So this is home.
This is
This
home
is
place.
this
All
is
right.
it.
Now, tell us about your family growing up. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I got 3 brothers. Well, one passed away.
I see.
A few years back, but the remaining 2, we're pretty close.
Yeah.
And my mother she's still around.
Really?
Yeah,
Great.
she's 91 years old.
Really? Yeah.
Still kicking and driving.
Good,
so.
good.
And keep us pretty much grounded.
And folks can get you occasionally.
Yeah, she keep us grounded.
Now, were your brothers, any of your brothers in the military?
My oldest brother, he served. He went to Vietnam maybe 3 or 4 years before I did.
Mm-hmm, I see.
So, yeah, 2 servicemen. My youngest brother, he avoided the military, but he's pretty much...
Turned out a pretty good fellow.
He's turned out to be okay.
Good, good. Now, so that kind of brought on your envision maybe of being in the military, or your thoughts about it anyway, your brother being in the military?
Well, somewhat, but I think growing up as a kid, I always, enjoyed Westerns and the white hat, the hero, but
I see.
stuff like that. So.
Now, did you volunteer or were you drafted? And tell us how you eventually went into the Army.
Well, I volunteered. It started with me and some buddies. Hey, why don't we all join and go on the buddy plane?
Uh-huh.
Well, I took the first step, and they backed out on me.
Left you alone, huh?
Yes, so I think amongst all of us, I was the only one. One of my friends, he did go into the Air Force.
I see. Okay.
But we went separate ways. So.
And what year was this, Lou?
It was in '69.
69. Yeah.
Sure was.
Now tell us about boot camp and what was it like for you, and where did you go for your training?
Well, I went to first I went to Montgomery for induction. Then they sent me to Fort Benning for
all the physical work.
Right.
Sure.
At Montgomery. Then they sent me to Fort Benning, Georgia. I was at Harmony Church. And boot camp was quite an experience. It was first time away from home.
Right, yeah. It's an adjustment, isn't it?
It's a big adjustment.
Yeah.
Run everywhere you go, somebody yelling at you, telling you what to do.
Walk that way, walk this way, whatever.
Walk that
Stay
way.
in step, that sort of thing.
That's right. So it was a big adjustment.
Yeah. Did you get to apply for a certain job or field when you got out of boot camp, or did the Army put you where they felt you were needed?
Well, I don't think we took plenty of testing and stuff like that, but basically during the war, it was a wartime situation and they needed people to infantry, so that's basically what I got. And about most of my basic training class, I'd say about 75, 80% went to
infantry. Yeah.
Sure did.
Now, after your training, did you go directly to Vietnam, or did you have to go through more extensive training? Or
well, from basic, you go to went to AIT, Advanced Infantry Training in Fort Polk, Louisiana. That was 8 to 9 weeks more of training, extensive, more.
Learn about weapons and that sort of thing?
More weapons, more strategies, intensive training. From there, yes, to Vietnam. Well, I came home for 2 weeks.
I see.
2 glorious weeks before I departed. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier this first time you'd been away from home, and when I went in service, that was my first time really, to go anywhere. Talk about being away from home while you were in the military, and how did it affect your family? And you weren't married at that time.
I was not married, no.
How did it affect you and your family?
Well, I guess in a big way, you can't get up and say, "Hello, Mom.
Yeah.
How we doing?" Use up a bunch of quarters trying to call.
Yeah. You could say that to the sergeant, but he probably wouldn't appreciate it.
So it was quite a experience to be, so far away, and you had to depend on the telephone and writing letters.
Yeah.
Which you had to get used to writing letters.
Yeah.
Back then it wasn't the cell phones. You didn't, no text.
Right.
So.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, before we talk about the military action you were involved with, let's talk about what it was like when you first got to Vietnam. Did you undergo further training before going on the front lines, that sort of thing?
Not really. We went to, when you get there, as the plane comes in for a landing, you're expecting the worst. I hope we don't get shot down before we hit the ground.
Exactly,
but it wasn't like that at all. You landed. You went.
Where did you land? What part of the country was it? Around Cameron Bay
we went. We landed in Cameron Bay, and then went to Chu Lai.
Now that's in the central part of the country. Is that Vietnam? Is that correct? In that area?
In that area,
I
yes.
see. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So from there you go to a holding company, and you don't get no more training. You basically get thrown in a company, and somebody latches on to you and say, "Okay,
we need you.
You follow me. You stick with me and do what I tell you. We're gonna be all right."
Now, when you did get some free time, however little that was in Vietnam, what did you do? What kind of relaxation was available after you go out on a mission or whatever? Did you get to watch a movie or anything like that?
Not really. No, we was on a station on a base camp, and when our relaxing time was, we spent downtime. We come in from the field, sit around, and at the bunker, and basically tell stories about our home life and the girl we left behind and stuff like that.
Stressing the truth a little bit.
You got to do that.
Right. Now, did you sleep? You sleep in a tent, or did you guys have to sleep out, on the ground?
If you was at base camp, you pretty much had a bunker that was built, and that's where you pretty much stayed in that bunker.
You
had your cot, and 2 or 3 cots in there.
I see. Yeah.
But in the field, yes, you slept up under the open.
Wherever you could sleep. Right?
Wherever you could find a spot.
Right. Lou, I'm sure you formed lasting friendships in the service. You still stay in contact with any of your friends from Vietnam or your Army days?
Unfortunately, since I've been back, I haven't heard from anybody. I had a close friend that was with me in Vietnam. He stayed in Nashville. I tried to reach out to him several times, but no success on that. So I'm not sure if he's still around or not. I'm just not sure.
Yeah. Now, we mentioned earlier, or you did, that, there's no email or anything like that back then, but it was always good to have a letter from home, wasn't it? That was, when you're away from home like that it meant so much to you. Talk about that.
Mail call was a big event.
Yeah.
When that mail came, when that guy came out there with that mail sack, that was everybody's attention.
Yeah.
What, did I get a letter today?
Yeah, I hope I get a letter.
Yeah, I hope I get a letter
Just
today.
something, yeah. A box of cookies or a cake that's mashed or something
word from
like that.
home, anything.
Right.
That was an occasion. When you mail call, you gone.
Oh, man.
You're standing right there waiting.
Make an extra effort, run to the mail call.
Right.
Now, I'm sure you have mixed feelings about serving in a war, but what is your favorite memory from serving in Vietnam and in the Army?
My favorite memory? I would have to say, the camaraderie between your fellow soldiers. You was treated like brothers.
Right.
You know, it was.
No matter your color or where you're from or whatever, I mean, you're all in it together. You depended on one another.
You depended on each other,
Yeah.
so it didn't matter.
Yeah. We're all brothers.
It was, all brothers, and you shared life experiences.
Sure.
I mean, things that people on the street out here in the civilian world never get a chance to go through.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
What company or outfit were you attached to while you were in Vietnam? Did you stay with the same company or basically?
From beginning to end, I was with the 196 Light Infantry. That was in the AmeriCare division. We operated out of a LZ Hawk Hill. And we'll go out on patrols maybe sometime from anywhere from 7 days to 60 days. Stand in the field, then we come back. So.
But mostly around the Chu Lai area. I think that's in the central part of Vietnam, or in that general area.
Correct.
Yeah. Louis, we mentioned earlier you received the Bronze Star with Valor for your service in Vietnam. Tell us about the battles or combat action that led to you receiving this award.
Well, we was on routine patrol, you know. I was a point man. So it was my job to get my platoon, my squad, my company from point A to point B safely.
Really, now, I want you to explain this. I mean, point man, that's one of the most dangerous positions in a company. Talk about that a little bit more. I mean,
well,
you kind of stay out right in front of the group and watching.
The point man has got to separate itself from the main body, more or less, and get out front. Make sure that everything in front of him and on the side of him is clear for the rest of the company to move forward. So they pretty much followed him at a distance, you know. However, he do have a slack man. That slack man is somewhat behind him, but not somewhere between him and the main body that can reach him quickly.
Right, and you can make motions so you can see, and hand signals. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
So
you don't want to make any noise necessarily.
Less noise as possible.
Yeah.
So on this particular day, we was on a routine patrol, just my platoon, and we were going down the trail. I was walking point. My slack man was behind me, and I heard all this talking, Vietnamese talk. And so one guy come out right in front of him. I'm walking down the trail. He comes out right in front of me. I stops. I'm scared to death, shaking in my boots, you know. And here come another one right in front of me. So they fighting.
You're talking just like 20 feet or just a few, just the short distance? Yeah.
I guess from here to, about 15.
50, yeah, okay.
10, 15 feet. They never looked my way. So I'm sitting here shocked, my weapon at the ready. And I walked behind him. I followed him.
And they never did see you. Wow.
You know, so, but once they entered the village and other Vietnamese Viet Cong soldiers was there.
Right.
They saw me behind them.
I see, yeah.
And then that's when the commotion started.
That's when things
so
broke out.
that's when it broke out, you know.
I see. Yeah.
That's when I had to start using my weapon. That's when they turned to fire on me. And fortunately, I had the upper hand on them.
Good.
It was one of them situations where I couldn't turn around and run, so I had to go forward.
Yeah.
So
had you got the information back or hand signal to the man following you? I mean,
my slack man was
alerted.
He was yes.
Nice.
And when they stopped me coming out in front of the trail, I stopped and I sing to him, "Hey, I got activity up here." So he was shortening the distance between himself and me. So.
How long did this battle last?
Seemed like a lifetime, but probably 2 or 3 minutes, you know, but it seemed like forever.
the whole company then became engaged, or eventually became
But
engaged?
they finally caught up to,
I see.
yeah, to help out. My slack man was the biggest help.
I see,
You know,
yeah.
so.
You were wounded during combat. Tell us what that experience was like, and do you still have lingering effects from your wounds? And let me ask you also, was it during this battle that you were wounded?
No, this was on a separate occasion.
I see, okay.
I was wounded. We had been down this trail several times, so we had set up night camp. This was just my squad. It was about 9 of us.
I see.
So the LT woke us. We got up the next morning. LT come and say, "Hey, we got to pack our stuff. Let's go." The rest of the platoon is in trouble. About 5 or 6 clicks away. We had to get there in a hurry. So we've been down the same trail 2 or 3 times already. I was walking point again. I said, "LT, look, we've been down this trail too many times."
Right.
But the situation called that, hey, well, you got to go. So back down the trail we went. Walked into an ambush. Booby traps went off everywhere. A lot of screaming, hollering. I think my whole squad was pretty much wounded. So instead of us going to help our platoon, we had to get help. So, and helicopters come and airlifted us out, and it was
a surreal
situation.
experience.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, Lou, about cliques, and other than veterans that may be watching this interview, some of the young people, explain what a clique is and what a military infantryman means by a clique.
Okay, that's reading the map.
Okay.
A clique is probably a little under a mile.
I see.
So according to the map, if it's 20 clicks north, south, west, whatever, it's but if you walk 10 clicks in a day, you don't walk quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a pretty good
especially with a heavy pack on your back. Everything you own is you carry.
Yeah.
You know.
Lou, let's go back to the battle now where you would eventually receive the Bronze Star with Valor. Did you lose any guys on that battle?
No, we didn't. It was we encountered. I think we encountered about 6, maybe 5 or 6 Viet Cong. My slack man joined me. Pretty much we neutralized that. And they had a whole...
They're coming up pretty close, I understand, too. I mean, you...
Well, I kind of ran up on them, but...
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, they were, and they pretty much scouted out on me, so...
Did you have... Now, you also use grenades to protect you and your men and your rifle. Talk about that just a little bit.
Well... when they ducked for cover, my rifle fire couldn't reach them, so had to come up with another plan.
Sure.
Take a grenade, pull the pin, and try to find the right distance, and
sure.
You let it go.
Let it go.
So then you pretty much, once you throw that, you pretty much run toward where the battle is and
sure.
try to take them out.
Hope for the best. Yeah. Was that one of the first battles that you were involved with, Lou, when you got over there?
No, but that was the first up close and personal.
I see. Yeah.
A lot of times you get in a firefight, you do a lot of shooting down range at the enemy, but you don't really get that close.
Right. Yeah.
When it's all over, you go and survey the area, do the body count, but you don't know if you actually hit anyone or
sure.
didn't, So it's just like, but that was the first occasion where it was.
I see. Now, many of the combat veterans we talk with mention a family member, a tough sergeant, commanding officer, who helped prepare them for the actions they took in combat. Was there someone like that for you?
Well, I had a tough sergeant in basic, and one in AIT. He was Sergeant Smith. He was a tough old cookie. And,
he didn't take any, back talk or anything, I imagine.
I was kind of like, I was kind of like a little messed up there, you know. Every time I turned around, I was in some kind of trouble.
Well, you're still adjusting. Adjusting to the Army life, military life,
He rode me pretty good, and so I think I turned out all right. I got a stripe when I left basic. When I left AIT, I got another one, so I guess they
Him doing what he did possibly saved your life, in combat, or helped save, Sure.
Well, one thing about the training, it instills in you things to do reflectively, but it don't quite prepare you for actual war. But the training do help keep you alive.
That's what all the veterans I talk with will say that. It all comes back down when you're in combat. It comes down to the training. It's kind of instinctive, that you do certain things because of that training. It sort of comes up to the top, and you're like, I got to use this, or subconscious, you do that.
You're right. It keeps you alive. But
right.
It don't quite prepare you for what you encounter.
Right.
But the training is vital.
Lou, how would you describe to young people what it's like to serve in a war zone, the thoughts you have of possibly being killed or wounded during battle? Pardon me.
I think you do when you first enter the situation, when you first enter the war zone. I think being killed, wounded, not coming home. I think that kind of weigh on you in the beginning. But as time progresses, you more or less come to grips with the whole situation. Okay.
A job, you got to do a job.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone go into combat or war zone situation saying, I'm not going to make it.
Right.
'Cause your attitude got to be, I'm going home.
Right.
I got people waiting on me.
Right.
So,
that's a good attitude too. It's helpful. Yeah. Now, you touched on this a little bit earlier, Lou. I know people often wonder, is it okay to be afraid or scared during combat? How would you answer that? Is it okay?
Oh yes. It's, if you wasn't scared, that would scare me. But yeah, afraid 24 hours a day.
It's part of it, isn't it?
It's part of it. If it allows for you don't let your guard down. That fear is what keeps you sharp.
Right.
Without it, you get a little complacent and careless, and
that can get you killed.
That can get you killed.
Right.
So the fear is something that you live with, and it keeps you alert.
Right.
Keeps you sharp, because, like I say, you want to go home.
That's right.
And being afraid is no. Shaking in your boots.
All part of it in combat.
All part of it, yeah. But you get over it.
Right.
You get over the fear when the situation say, hey,
you get more experience.
You got to move in spite of the fear.
Yeah. How do you feel when people call you, pardon me, Lou, I'm sorry, call you a hero when they read about or hear about what you did in combat? When you're called a hero, what does that make you feel?
Well, I don't feel deserving of that title because, you was doing what you was trained to do, just like everybody else that was with you. Everybody done the job. They stuck together. They supported each other. And coming out alive is what it's about, and taking care
of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Do you often wonder, would you do it all over again?
Looking back now, I don't think so.
Not through the exact same thing.
No, but the military experience, yes.
Yeah.
But war, going to Vietnam, doing that again, I don't think the memories is enough for me.
Right. Lou, you've served in a war, and through the years, I'm sure you've seen a few war movies. You've served in combat. You know what it's like. Do you think war is depicted accurately in most of the movies or TV movies that you have seen or on TV or in the theaters?
Not really. But I was very impressed by a movie that me and the wife watched not long ago. It was Hacksaw Ridge, I think it was.
I've heard about it. I haven't seen that movie.
Oh, that was a great movie. I enjoyed that immensely. And that, to me, showed a whole lot of realism in it. And I can imagine what that guy went through. You know, so...
I think he was a medic, wasn't he?
He was a medic.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
how long did you stay in Vietnam, and when did you come back to the States?
stayed in Vietnam a total of 6 months before I got wounded and shipped out to Japan. And from Japan, I went to Walter Reed Army Hospital.
So you didn't go back into Vietnam or combat after you were wounded?
No, sir.
Oh, I see.
No. No, that was it for me. That ended my war career right there. So,
Lou, you when you came home, and what was the experience like? What kind of adjustment was it for you when after you got home, got back to the States?
It was quite an adjustment because, you know, it kind of felt like I wasn't apart. Coming back, your old friends, people you know all your life, you know, that kind of relating to them was not the same. It's one of those situations where I don't understand them and they don't understand me.
Right.
I guess I'm the one that changed. So.
So there is an adjustment, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a big adjustment.
Some people it's more, some people it's less, I guess.
Right.
Did you encounter any protest, or when you were back, like even when you're convalescing, getting over your wounds, were there protests going on outside the hospital or that sort of thing? When you're back in America?
Well, when I was in Washington D.C. at Walter Reed, it was more prevalent there. Protests going around. You could see them out marching outside the hospital. But once I got on the plane, got off the plane in Huntsville, it was everything. Coming back home to Huntsville, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, walking through the airport, no problems,
Did you go down and kiss the ground or anything when you first got there? Some guys have done that, in the past.
Well, I didn't have an opportunity. We came in on a medical plane.
Sure.
Come in to Walter Reed. We didn't have a chance to celebrate like that. So.
But you're over your wounds now, okay? Does it still bother you?
Yes, I still have problem with shrapnel, and
I see.
So cold weather, and I'm getting older now. So
yeah, that all affects all of us, doesn't it?
Yeah, it do.
Lou, tell us about your family. You and your wife Teresa have been. How long have you been married now?
We've been together. She might kill me for this, but I must say 20.
Yeah, she's in the studio now. You know that.
8 years, I think. 28, 29 years, something like that.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I see. Tell us about your children. I know you have some grandchildren too.
Yeah, we
You're
have.
Very proud of.
2 daughters. One, she's the one that gave us the grandkids. She's happily married, and it's been a blessing for us.
Yeah.
We had 2 granddaughters,
Yeah.
and family last year. She gave us a grandson. So,
Fantastic, yeah.
So,
and you get to keep them occasionally, I guess.
He's a bouncing boy.
Or do they keep you? You know, that's the way my grandkids, sometimes you don't know.
You're right.
That's right. Now, what line of work did you get into, Lou, when you got out of service?
Well, when I first got out, I went to work out on Redstone and supply, supply division. I ran the clothing issue facility. Kind of like I issued all the army boots and the fatigues and stuff like that. I've done that for quite a few years. And had veterans preference.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how being a veteran helped you in gaining employment. I'm sure that it was helpful, wasn't it?
It was helpful.
Yeah.
Especially being disabled veteran.
Right. Sure.
You got veterans preference. They put you ahead of the list, and you pretty much get a job quicker than.
It helps.
It helps a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, we all appreciate that. You know, being a veteran gives you a little emphasis there to in job preference and so forth. It's helpful.
Not only being disabled veteran, just you're right. The regular veterans get preference also. So
that's true.
Especially when it come down to government hiring and stuff like that. Yeah.
They'll give you the nod first if you're qualified.
You're right. It helps out a lot.
What advice would you give to young people who may be considering going into the military? What advice would you give them, Lou?
Well, I would. My thoughts are that all young people should give at least 1 or 2 years of their life to serving their country. But if you got to do it, try to pick you a good job that's going to serve you well when you get out.
That's right.
You know.
Yeah.
Something
that you'd enjoy doing if you have that opportunity.
Correct. Yeah. Find something. Get in the field that you can come out and that's your lifelong,
Yeah.
And you can make a career out of that. Being in the infantry don't quite afford you that.
Yeah. Not too many infantry jobs open. But,
no, it's not.
It's good training. But
you're right.
Yeah. Maturity, I guess, would be one of the things that would be helpful in any job placement. Lou, last year in 2016, you were inducted into the Madison County Hall of Heroes. Tell us about that experience and what that meant to you.
That was up to this point in time. That was probably the most humbling and that's an experience I'll never forget. I mean, to be honored, recognized that way. I mean, it was overwhelming. Yeah. I'm forever grateful to the Heritage Commission to undergo that whole process, the military escorts, the whole process. I mean, it's something that I feel honored and I'm thankful for. Yeah.
Well, Lou, you were being recognized for the service that you provided to our country, and that's why that you're recognized.
Okay.
And your fellow inductees. So that meant a lot. So, listen, I want to tell you that we appreciate you participating in our oral history interview series and allowing us to preserve your military experience for the people of this community. And thank you, sir, for your service to our country.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
All right.
It really has. Enjoyed it very much. If you would like more information regarding this interview or any interview in our Military Heritage series, please contact the Madison County Military Heritage Commission website at mcmhc.org. Thank you for being with us. I'm Tom Kennemer.